Hi and welcome to another gaming video, and in today's video I want to talk about game franchises, and in particular game franchises that I seem to have skipped over the last 30 odd years. So I've been playing games for 3 decades, and there are some major, what I call franchises, by which I mean games with maybe sort of three or more games in that series. There are a lot of them that I just haven't touched on, so I'm going to just briefly go through the list of big franchises that I am a big fan of and have played a lot of. So you've got things like Driver, Killzone, Resistance, Borderlands, Doom, Quake, Need for Speed, Serious Sam, Kirby, Call of Duty, Halo, FIFA, God of War, Mortal Kombat, Wolfenstein, Tetris, Hexen and Heretic, Burnout, Kingdom Hearts, Crisis, Wipeout, Little Big Planet. And then you've obviously got things like the Lego games, Mario and Sonic. All of these I would class as sort of franchises. They've got, well, some of them have got 10 games under these titles. But there are a lot of big name franchises that I haven't touched on in my 30 years of gaming. So if we look at sort of some of the franchises that I haven't played, you've got a fair list here. So let's start off with Battlefield. I played one of those games on the PS3. I think it was Battlefield Bad Company. And there was just something about the whole way the game felt and played. I just didn't like it and never really played any of the others. If we look at Metro, another sort of PS3 era series of games, they look fantastic. I actually bought them on the Switch as well. Never played any of them. I will get round to playing them on the Switch, but that's a series I've never played. FarCry. Now this is a big series. There's a lot of games in there. 6, 7, 8 games I think. The only one that I tried was Far Cry Instincts on the original Xbox, and nope, it's just not my style of game. It was not the right kind of pace for how I like to play games. And then there are a lot of games that are more stealth, or where you have to search or talk to people or craft things. So I didn't really get on with Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon. I played some of the early ones on the original Xbox. The same with Assassin's Creed. It made me think too much. I played Assassin's Creed 3 on the PS Vita because there are a lot of Assassin's Creed games. It was a running joke that there was one every year for a while, and it was a series or a franchise that I wanted to get into, but just didn't. It's the same with things like The Witcher, Dark Souls, Diablo. They're just not my style of game, and so I never really showed much interest in them. Similarly with the Uncharted series, absolutely fantastic. My daughter was a huge fan of Uncharted on the PS3 and the PS4, and I played. And I did play quite a bit of it actually. Uncharted Golden Abyss on the PlayStation Vita, because it was the biggest title for the platform. A lovely game, but it just required me to think too much. It's along the same lines as like Tomb Raider. Then you've got, well, this is where I get confused, Elder Scrolls, and I think I played number 3, which was Morrowind. I still just lump them all together and call them Skyrim. Similar thing, just that whole, you've got to think, you've got to talk to people, you've got to work things out, and that's not I like to just run into a room and shoot everything. I'm much more at home with sort of first-person shooters. You've got things like Resident Evil, which is a massive selection of games, going all the way back to original PlayStation, and the only ones I've really played is on the 3DS. I think it's called Resident Evil Revelations. But the whole sort of janky, slightly odd camera angles really put me off the whole sort of Resident Evil series. And it's a similar thing with the Metal Gear Solid. So if we take a look at some slightly different ones, you've got things like Metroid. The only game I've played in the Metroid series is Metroid Prime on the Nintendo DS. And that was only because you got bundled a demo cartridge. So I never played any of the sideways scrolling Metroids, just this sort of 3D one, which didn't really work on the DS, because the DS just, it's not really capable of handling 3D, and the controls are extremely clunky. The same with Castlevania. I tried to get into that a few years ago. It's a huge name in gaming. I played Aria of Sorrow on the Game Boy Advance, and I got about half an hour in and just couldn't work out what I was supposed to be doing. It's not a straightforward start to finish 2D platformer. So yeah, that's my experience of Castlevania. There are a couple of others here. So you've got things like Saints Row, which I do every so often look at, but I've never played any of the Saints Row games. They're always heavily discounted on the Switch in the last sort of 12 months they have been. So I do toy with the idea of picking them up, but never played any of those. My son wanted to put Subnautica and Minecraft on the list. I'm not too sure that I'd class Subnautica as a franchise. Minecraft possibly. There are three in the series. You've got Minecraft, Minecraft Dungeons, Minecraft Legends. I've played a little bit of normal Minecraft. I just don't really get the whole gist of it. It just seems like an endless, pointless kind of game. And the other two I've never really touched on. It's the same with sort of like the Batman games and the Spider-Man games. There was some big Spider-Man games on the PSP. Batman on the PS Vita was a good game by the looks of it, but it nearly never really floated my boat. Some more to know are things like Zelda, a franchise, and as big as a Nintendo fan as I am, never really gotten into it at all. I just couldn't deal with the whole walking around and talking and exploring. I did give Link's Awakening DX on the Game Boy Color a good go, but it's just not. It's not a series for me, so I've never played any other Zelda games. Then you've got things like Spyro and Crash Bandicoot. Big titles, especially for early days of PlayStation. Not my thing. Never played any of them. My wife was a big fan of both of those. Animal Crossing, another big Nintendo franchise, which just, even the thought of the game really irritates me. Some in my family are quite big on Animal Crossing, but not for me. And the same goes for things like Professor Layton. Those were really big for the DS platform. The only one I've actually ever tried is Professor Layton and the Miracle Mask on Nintendo 3DS, but that was only because I got given a cartridge. It was absolutely filthy, so I tried it, cleaned it up, and had a bit of a bash, but horrible thing, and I never played any of the others after that. But you've got some bigger ones here, things like Final Fantasy. Never played a Final Fantasy game. Never shown any interest in the Devil May Cry series or the Yakuzas. My daughter is a big fan of the Tony Hawk games. She's played them on various systems from GameCube up to PS4, but I've never played them. Don't have any interest in them at all. So a big, well, not so much now, but they were a very big series at the time. Then you've got the likes of Mega Man. I tried Mega Man Zero on the DS. I played it for about 10 minutes. Wanted to see what all the fuss was about. Couldn't get on with it. Never tried another Mega Man game. Tekken, a big entry into the fighting genre, especially for the PlayStation, and the only one I've ever played is Dark Resurrection on the PSP, but only because it came with my PSP. And then we're going to look at the last two. I'll finish this video very shortly. You got the FNAF series, Five Nights at Freddy's. It's a huge genre for, well, my son is a massive fan of it, everything FNAF related, and I've seen a lot of the games. They just don't interest me at all. It's a sort of childish horror kind of thing, not really at all. And the final one is Pokemon. As much as Pokemon is absolutely massive and has been for at least 20 years, 25 years, going all the way back to the Game Boy. The only entry into the Pokemon series I've played is Pokemon Go, and that was only because everyone was doing it, and I played it very briefly. So, there you go. That is my roundup of games franchises that I have either completely skipped or dipped into, realised that I'm not interested in, and then never played another game in those series. And there are some big titles in there: Pokemon, Zelda, Final Fantasy, FarCry, Metal Gear Solid, Resident Evil, Uncharted, Assassin's Creed, just to name a few. And let me know what you think. Have I missed out on some gems? Should I give some of these that I have not looked at for a while or not looked at all, another chance, just let me know. Link, like, subscribe, enjoy.